I always find myself wandering around the produce section longer than necessary because I want to pick the freshest vegetables, but somehow I end up comparing prices and labels so much that I forget what I actually came for.
That's funny. I usually just grab what I need and hope for the best. But then I end up at the checkout realizing I forgot something essential, like eggs or bread, and it ruins the flow of the morning.
I try to make a list the night before, which helps, but even then, I sometimes get distracted by new products or seasonal items, and suddenly my cart is half full with things I didn't plan to buy.
Exactly. And then there's the moment when you see a really nice fruit display and you're tempted to buy something you don't need just because it looks good.
Guilty as charged. I once bought 3 different types of mangoes just because they were labeled premium, even though I only needed one for a smoothie.
It's human nature. The key is awareness. Noticing when shopping becomes about choice for the sake of choice instead of necessity.
That makes sense. I think I'll try walking through the store with intention today rather than wandering, which might save both time and mental energy.
And maybe avoid the snack aisle completely. That's where all impulsive decisions hide.
Agreed. If we stick to a plan and remain conscious of our choices, grocery shopping can be surprisingly calm.
I like that. A calm grocery run sounds like a small victory for the day.
I love this cafe because it feels like the city slows down a little here, even if only for a few minutes, and you can actually hear your thoughts instead of just notifications.
Absolutely. I think that's why I enjoy coming here, because even a short coffee break feels intentional instead of rushed.
I usually use this time to plan the next few hours, but I try not to make it all work. Sometimes just sitting and observing people is enough to recharge.
Observing people is entertaining too. I notice how everyone has a different ritual. Someone typing furiously on a laptop, someone reading quietly, someone taking endless selfies of their coffee.
It's fascinating how much you can learn about habits just by watching. I notice the smallest details now, like how people hold their cup or how they react to the first sip.
And it makes you appreciate your own routines. Even small mindful actions like sipping slowly or savoring a croissant can make a big difference to your day.
I feel calmer already just talking about it. It's weird how simple observations can improve your mood.
That's why I think short breaks matter as much as focused work. It gives your mind space to reflect, recharge, and even spark new ideas.
Exactly. Intentional pauses aren't wasted time. They're productive in their own way.
Agreed. I'll remember that next time I feel guilty for taking a break.
I always underestimate how long errands take. Like when I come to the post office, I think, this will be quick. And then somehow I spend 20 minutes figuring out forms and standing in line.
That's classic. You underestimate the mental load of small tasks. Even picking up a prescription feels like a mini strategy session. Where do I stand? What do I ask? Did I remember the right ID?
And if the place is busy, your stress multiplies. I usually prepare my documents in advance and make sure I know exactly what I need, which saves time and avoids confusion.
That's smart. I should do that. I always forget a detail, like my account number or prescription form, and it ruins the efficiency.
Sometimes I just rely on asking people, but then I realize it's slower because everyone else is confused too, and it turns into a small waiting game.
Awareness is key. If you anticipate the common hurdles, errands are much smoother.
I like that approach. It's like applying workplace efficiency strategies to everyday life.
Exactly. Small steps of preparation save mental energy and reduce frustration.
And observing how people behave in queues or at counters also teaches patience and communication strategies.
That's true. Even saying thank you and being polite makes interactions faster and smoother. By the time I sit down in the evening, I often feel like I've been running around all day, but I've realized that taking just 10 minutes to consciously reflect on what I did, how I felt, and what I learned completely changes how I perceive my productivity.
I feel that too. I usually start by thinking about the tasks I actually completed, not just the ones I intended to do, because that way I can acknowledge progress instead of focusing solely on what didn't get done.
That's a very effective approach. I also like to write down the moments that felt most challenging and try to identify why they were difficult, because understanding the cause helps me adjust for the next day.
Exactly. And sometimes it's the small wins, like finishing a report early, or having a good conversation with a client, that make me feel more accomplished than the big tasks that felt overwhelming.
I like how you said that. For me, recognizing even minor successes helps reduce that feeling of being behind, which is something I struggled with for a long time.
I think reflection also helps with emotional balance. When we acknowledge both successes and struggles, It reduces stress and gives perspective instead of letting frustration accumulate silently.
That's true. I often notice that without reflection, I go straight to bed feeling tired and scattered. But with even a few minutes of focused thought, I sleep better and wake up feeling prepared.
I do something similar. I try to summarize the day in my head, noting not only what I did but also what I could do differently tomorrow. That mental recap gives me a sense of control and closure.
And writing it down adds another layer of clarity, because putting thoughts into words forces you to organize them logically, which makes it easier to remember and apply.
I like that perspective. It's like creating a personal map of the day, understanding what worked, what didn't, and what patterns I notice in my energy, focus, or mood.
Exactly. For me, reflection isn't just about reviewing tasks, it's also about observing habits and routines, because small adjustments can significantly improve productivity and well-being.
I agree. Even noting subtle habits, like getting distracted by notifications or skipping breaks, makes you more intentional in structuring your time the next day.
And it helps me appreciate the day more fully, because I can see what I accomplished, rather than just focusing on what's left unfinished.
That's the key. Awareness leads to appreciation, which leads to motivation instead of burnout.
I think if everyone incorporated even a short reflection period daily, the cumulative effect on fluency in thought and expression would be huge, because clarity of mind translates directly into clarity of speech.
Now that it's later in the evening, I like to take a moment to think about tomorrow, because reviewing today helps me anticipate challenges and plan strategically, instead of walking in blind and reacting to events as they happen.
I feel that too. I usually jot down a few priorities for the next day, and it helps me feel less scattered in the morning because I already know what's important and what can wait.
That's smart. I also try to note potential obstacles. For example, if I have overlapping meetings or deadlines, so I can prepare solutions in advance instead of being surprised.
That makes sense. I find that when I plan proactively, I not only save time but also reduce stress, because I feel like I have a roadmap instead of a chaotic to-do list.
And even when things don't go according to plan, having that framework makes it easier to adapt because you know what the priorities are and what can be shifted without panic.
I think the reflection planning combination also improves focus. When you mentally rehearse your day, you can anticipate where your attention should go and avoid being distracted by less important tasks.
I've noticed that as well. Even small actions like deciding what to wear or packing my bag the night before frees up mental energy for bigger decisions during the day.
That's true. Little efficiencies accumulate, and suddenly your day feels more manageable and less overwhelming.
Another benefit is emotional preparation. Reflecting on today allows you to acknowledge stress or frustration, so you can start tomorrow with a clearer, calmer mindset instead of carrying tension over.
Exactly. I sometimes write down 1 or 2 affirmations or intentions for tomorrow, not as a rigid plan, but as gentle guidance for how I want to approach tasks and interactions.
I like that. It's like setting the tone for the day mentally, which influences how you respond to unexpected events rather than just reacting impulsively.
And reviewing patterns over time helps you understand which parts of your routine support productivity and which create bottlenecks, so you can tweak them gradually.
I also like to reflect on communication, noticing how I expressed ideas, if I could have been clearer, or if I listened attentively, because effective communication is part of daily fluency, not just task completion.
That's a good point. Reflection improves language and thought simultaneously. It's training your brain and your mouth at the same time.
If this habit is consistent, it gradually makes speaking English more natural, because your thoughts are organized and ready to flow without hesitation or overthinking.